General Major Fritz Bayerlein stands in the turret of his command Panzer IV, watching the Norman countryside through his binoculars. It's July 30th, 1944, and Operation Bluecoat has begun. Across the rolling hills of the Bocage, British armoured columns are advancing with a coordination and ferocity that surprises even veteran Wehrmacht commanders. This isn't the cautious, methodical British advance they've grown accustomed to. This is something different. The Bocage country of Normandy should favour the defender. Ancient hedgerows create natural tank obstacles, turning every field into a potential killing ground. Sunken roads provide covered approaches for anti-tank teams. Stone farmhouses offer strong points that can anchor defensive lines. German forces have spent weeks preparing these positions, turning the countryside into a maze of interlocking defensive zones. But through his binoculars, Bayerlein watches British Churchill tanks smashing through hedgerows that should stop them. Infantry following in close support, clearing German positions with systematic efficiency. Artillery falling with precision that suggests perfect coordination between forward observers and gun batteries. This is the Guards Armoured Division, and they're fighting like no British unit Bayerlein has encountered since Normandy began. Oberst Hans von Luck, commanding the 125th Panzergrenadier Regiment, receives the first reports of British breakthrough at 0800 hours. His forward positions report massive artillery preparation followed by tank assault. Not the usual British pattern of careful reconnaissance, methodical advance consolidation before continuing. This is rapid, aggressive, sustained offensive action. The British are through our first line, reports Hauptmann Weber, commanding the forward battalion. They're not stopping to consolidate. They're pushing straight through, heading for Villa Bocage. We can't hold them. We need immediate reinforcement. Von Luck studies his map, calculates distances, considers options. His regiment holds a sector designed to channel British attacks into prepared killing zones. The defensive positions are strong, well-sighted, mutually supporting. German doctrine assumes that British forces will advance cautiously, allowing defenders to coordinate counterattacks, bring up reserves, establish new defensive lines. But the British aren't following German expectations. They're advancing rapidly, bypassing strong points, exploiting gaps, maintaining momentum that prevents German forces from organizing coherent defense. Von Luck realizes he's facing a different kind of British unit, one that fights with German-style aggression, combined with British organizational efficiency. "Get me Panzer Lehr headquarters," Von Luck tells his radio operator. "I need to speak with General Bayerlein immediately. The situation here is developing faster than our defensive plans anticipated." Bayerlein receives Von Luck's call while repositioning his command tank to observe the British advance. Through his periscope, he watches Churchill tanks advancing in tactical formation, infantry sections moving in coordination with armour, artillery fire falling precisely where it needs to disrupt German defensive positions. "Hans, what's your assessment?" Bayerlein asks. Von Luck's voice carries tension unusual for a veteran who's fought from Poland to Normandy. "Herr General, these British units are fighting differently. They're not following their usual tactical patterns. They're advancing with speed and coordination that's preventing us from implementing our defensive doctrine." Bayerlein understands immediately. German defensive tactics in Normandy depend on British predictability, on methodical advances that allow time for defensive adjustments. If British forces abandon caution for speed, if they maintain momentum instead of consolidating, German defensive advantages disappear. The Guards Armoured Division represents something new in British tactical doctrine. Elite units trained specifically for rapid exploitation, equipped with improved tanks and communication systems, led by commanders who understand that breakthrough requires sustained aggression. They're fighting with German tactical principles adapted to British organizational strengths. Major John Verney, commanding a squadron of Churchill tanks in the Guards Armoured Division, leads his tanks through a gap in the German defensive line. Behind him, infantry sections advance in half tracks. Artillery observers coordinate fire support. Engineers prepare to clear obstacles. The coordination is seamless, efficient, deadly. Verney has studied German tactical manuals, understands German defensive doctrine, knows that German strength depends on forcing attackers into prepared killing zones. His mission is to avoid those zones, to maintain momentum, to exploit breakthrough before German forces can react. Through his tank's vision blocks, Verney sees German positions ahead, dug-in anti-tank guns, camouflaged Panzerfaust's teams, machine gun nests covering approach routes. Standard German defensive layout, designed to channel attackers into overlapping fields of fire. But Verney doesn't attack the positions directly. Instead, he leads his squadron around the flank, through terrain that German planners considered impassable for tanks. His Churchill tanks, equipped with improved tracks and suspension, negotiate the Bocage country with mobility that German intelligence assessments said was impossible. The flanking maneuver bypasses German strongpoints, threatens German supply lines, forces German defenders to abandon prepared positions. Classic German tactical doctrine executed by British forces with British organizational efficiency. Oberst Kurt Meyer, commanding the 12th SS Panzer Division Reconnaissance Battalion, watches British tanks appear in his rear area through gaps his intelligence officers insisted were impassable. The British advance has penetrated German defensive lines at multiple points, creating a tactical situation that German doctrine doesn't address. Meyer has fought British forces since Normandy began, understands British tactical patterns, knows British capabilities and limitations. British units advance methodically, consolidate carefully, coordinate extensively. They're predictable, cautious, vulnerable to counterattack by mobile German reserves. But these British units are different. They're advancing rapidly, bypassing strongpoints, maintaining momentum that prevents German forces from organizing coherent response. They're fighting like German units, with aggression and speed that German defensive doctrine doesn't anticipate. Mein Gott, Meyer says to his operations officer, watching British tanks advance through terrain his maps show as impassable. How are they getting tanks through that bocage? Our intelligence said Churchill tanks couldn't negotiate those hedgerows. The operations officer has no answer. German intelligence assessments, based on earlier British operations, indicated that British tanks lacked the mobility for rapid exploitation through Bocage country. British tactical doctrine emphasized methodical advance, careful consolidation, extensive coordination that required time and preparation. But the Guards Armoured Division operates differently. Their tanks are modified for Bocage fighting, equipped with hedgerow cutting devices, improved tracks, enhanced communication systems. Their tactics emphasize speed over caution, exploitation over consolidation, momentum over methodical advance. General Oberst Heinrich Eberbach, commanding Panzer Group West, receives reports of British breakthrough from multiple sectors simultaneously. His staff plots British penetrations on the situation map, calculates threat axes, assesses German response options. The tactical picture is disturbing. British forces have achieved breakthrough at Caumont, are advancing toward Villers-Bocage, threaten to outflank German positions throughout the sector. The advance is coordinated, sustained, supported by artillery and air power that suggests careful planning and extensive preparation. But more disturbing is the speed of British advance. German defensive doctrine assumes time to assess threats, coordinate responses, position reserves. British speed eliminates that time, forces German commanders to react rather than plan, respond rather than anticipate. How many British divisions are involved? Eberbach asks his intelligence officer. Initial reports suggest one armoured division, possibly reinforced, but the speed and coordination suggest more extensive forces or British tactical capabilities that exceed our assessments. Eberbach studies the situation map, considers options. German reserves are committed to containing other British and American offensives. Mobile forces are engaged in defensive battles throughout Normandy. Available reserves are insufficient to contain a major British breakthrough. The Guards Armoured Division represents a new phase in the Normandy campaign. British forces have learned from earlier operations, adapted their tactics, developed capabilities that German intelligence didn't anticipate. They're fighting with competence that matches German tactical doctrine while maintaining British organizational advantages. Feldwebel Heinrich Schulz, commanding a Panther tank in the 2nd Panzer Division, receives orders to counterattack British forces advancing through his sector. The orders are urgent, desperate, unclear about enemy strength or disposition. His company commander is dead. His battalion commander is missing. His regimental headquarters isn't responding to radio calls. Schultz has been fighting since 1941, from Russia to France, understands tank warfare, knows German tactical doctrine. German panzer units excel at mobile defense, rapid counterattack, exploitation of enemy mistakes. But effective counterattack requires intelligence, coordination, support from other arms. The British advance has disrupted German communications, isolated German units, prevented coordination between defensive forces. Schultz's Panther tank is technically superior to British Churchill tanks, but technical superiority means nothing without tactical coordination. Through his periscope, Schultz sees British tanks advancing in tactical formation, infantry sections moving in coordination with armour, artillery fire falling precisely on German positions, air support attacking German reserves attempting to move forward. The British are fighting with combined arms coordination that equals German tactical doctrine. Schultz attempts to engage British tanks from a hull-down position behind a hedgerow. His first shot hits a Churchill tank, penetrates the armour, sets the vehicle ablaze. But immediately, British artillery fire falls on his position. British infantry sections move to flank his tank. British air support attacks his escape routes. The British response is immediate, coordinated, overwhelming. They're fighting with tactical competence that German commanders didn't expect from British forces. They're using German tactical principles with British organizational efficiency. Schultz withdraws his Panther tank, falls back to secondary positions, attempts to coordinate with other German units. But the British advance continues, maintains momentum, prevents German forces from establishing coherent defensive lines. Major General Alan Adair, commanding the Guards Armoured Division, coordinates the advance from his tactical headquarters. Maps cover the walls showing German defensive positions, British advance routes, coordination points with supporting units. The operation is proceeding according to plan, but Adair knows the critical phase is approaching. Breakthrough is only the beginning. Exploitation requires sustained momentum, continued coordination, prevention of German counterattack. German mobile reserves will respond once they understand the scope of British advance. German tactical doctrine emphasizes rapid counterattack against penetrating forces. But Adair has studied German tactical manuals, understands German defensive doctrine, knows German response patterns. His division is organized and equipped specifically for rapid exploitation, sustained advance, prevention of German tactical recovery. The Guards Armoured Division represents the evolution of British tactical doctrine, elite units trained for aggressive operations, equipped with improved tanks and communication systems, supported by artillery and air power that provides immediate response to tactical requirements. Through his command tank's radio, Adair coordinates with supporting units. Artillery batteries providing fire support, air squadrons attacking German reserves, engineer units clearing obstacles, supply columns maintaining momentum. The coordination is seamless, efficient, deadly. This is what British forces can achieve when they abandon caution for aggression, when they fight with German tactical principles adapted to British organizational strengths. This is the Guards Armoured Division at full capability. General Major Edgar Feuchtinger, commanding the 21st Panzer Division, attempts to organize counterattack against British breakthrough. His division is the mobile reserve for the sector, equipped with Panzer IV tanks and assault guns, trained for rapid response to enemy penetrations. But Feuchtinger's counterattack develops slowly, encounters immediate opposition, fails to achieve tactical surprise. British forces are prepared for German response, positioned to defeat counterattack, supported by artillery and air power that neutralizes German tactical advantages. The British have learned from earlier operations, Feuchtinger realizes. They understand German tactical doctrine, anticipate German responses, prepare countermeasures that neutralize German advantages. They're fighting with tactical sophistication that equals German competence. Feuchtinger's Panzer IV tanks engage British Churchill tanks in open terrain that should favor German gunnery and tactical mobility. But British tanks fight from prepared positions, supported by anti-tank guns and artillery, coordinated through communication systems that provide immediate tactical information. The engagement becomes a battle of attrition that favors British forces. British numerical superiority, artillery support, air cover offset German tactical advantages. Feustinger's counterattack stalls, then fails, then retreats under British pressure. German mobile reserves, the foundation of defensive doctrine in Normandy, prove insufficient against British forces fighting with sustained aggression and superior coordination. The Guards Armoured Division maintains momentum, continues advance, exploits German tactical failure. Oberst Hans von Luck, still attempting to coordinate defensive operations in his sector, receives reports of German counterattack failure. British forces continue advancing, bypassing German strongpoints, threatening German supply lines, forcing German units to abandon prepared positions. The tactical situation is deteriorating faster than German doctrine anticipates, von Luck realizes. British speed and coordination prevent German forces from implementing defensive measures, organizing counterattacks, establishing new defensive lines. Von Luck has fought British forces throughout the North African campaign, understands British capabilities and limitations. British units are methodical, cautious, predictable. They advance carefully, consolidate extensively, coordinate thoroughly. They're competent, but unimaginative, effective, but slow. But these British units fight differently. They advance rapidly, exploit opportunities, maintain momentum that prevents German tactical recovery. They're fighting with German tactical principles while maintaining British organizational advantages. This is what we feared, von Luck tells his operations officer. British forces fighting with German tactical doctrine. They've learned from our successes, adapted our methods, combined them with their organizational strengths. They're becoming as dangerous as we are. The observation is accurate but disturbing. German tactical superiority has been the foundation of Wehrmacht's success since 1939. German ability to fight faster, more aggressively, more flexibly than enemy forces has compensated for numerical and material disadvantages. But if British forces adopt German tactical methods while maintaining British organizational efficiency, German advantages disappear. The Guards Armoured Division represents that evolution, British forces fighting with German tactical competence and British logistical superiority. General Major Bayerlein, watching his defensive positions collapse under British pressure, understands that something fundamental has changed in the Normandy campaign. British forces are fighting with capabilities that German intelligence didn't anticipate, tactical competence that German doctrine didn't expect. The Bocage country that should favor German defensive operations is being penetrated by British forces using German tactical methods. Rapid advance, sustained momentum, exploitation of breakthrough, prevention of defensive recovery. Classic German doctrine executed by British forces with British organizational efficiency. Bayerlein requests permission to withdraw to secondary defensive positions, to establish new defensive lines beyond British advance, to preserve German forces for continued resistance. But withdrawal requires time, coordination, protection from mobile reserves that are already committed or defeated. The British advance continues, maintains pressure, prevents German tactical recovery. The Guards Armoured Division has achieved what German commanders considered impossible: breakthrough and exploitation through Bocage country using sustained aggressive tactics. August 1st, 1944. British forces reach Villers-Bocage, the objective of their advance. German defensive lines in the sector have collapsed. German mobile reserves have been defeated or withdrawn. German tactical doctrine has proven inadequate against British forces fighting with German tactical methods. Oberst Meyer, attempting to organize withdrawal of his reconnaissance battalion, receives orders to establish new defensive positions west of Villers-Bocage. The orders assume that German forces can disengage from British pressure, move to new positions, establish coherent defensive lines. But British forces maintain contact, continue pressure, prevent German disengagement. They're fighting with tactical competence that equals German doctrine while maintaining British organizational advantages. They're pursuing defeated German forces with aggression that German commanders didn't expect from British units. Meyer's withdrawal becomes a fighting retreat under constant British pressure. His units suffer casualties, lose equipment, abandon positions that were supposed to anchor new defensive lines. The British advance continues, exploits German tactical failure, threatens German operational stability throughout the sector. This is what German officers said when British Guards Armoured burst through the Bocage. They said nothing officially, nothing for the record, nothing that would acknowledge British tactical superiority. Because acknowledging British competence would require admitting German tactical failure, German intelligence inadequacy, German doctrinal limitations. But privately, in secure communications and personal diaries, German commanders recorded their observations. Von Luck wrote, "The British have learned to fight like us with our speed and aggression, while maintaining their organizational advantages. They're becoming as dangerous as we are." Bayerlein noted, "British tactical doctrine has evolved beyond our intelligence assessments. They're fighting with German methods adapted to British strengths. Our defensive advantages are neutralized when the enemy adopts our tactical principles." Meyer observed, "The Guards Armoured Division fights differently from other British units. They advance rapidly, exploit opportunities, maintain momentum. They understand German tactical doctrine and use it against us." Feutinger concluded, "British forces have achieved tactical competence that equals German standards while maintaining British logistical superiority. Our advantages in mobile warfare are disappearing. The observations were accurate but disturbing. German tactical superiority, the foundation of Wehrmacht success, was being neutralized by British forces that fought with German methods while maintaining British organizational efficiency. The Guards Armoured Division represented the evolution of British tactical doctrine. Elite units trained for aggressive operations, equipped for rapid exploitation, led by commanders who understood that breakthrough required sustained momentum rather than methodical advance. They fought through the Bocage using German tactical principles: rapid advance, sustained aggression, exploitation of breakthrough, prevention of defensive recovery. But they maintained British organizational advantages: superior logistics, better communication, more effective coordination between arms. The combination proved devastating to German defensive doctrine. German advantages in mobile warfare disappeared when British forces adopted German tactical methods. German defensive positions became vulnerable when British forces maintained German-style momentum. What German officers said when British Guards Armoured burst through the Bocage revealed their understanding that British tactical competence had evolved beyond German expectations. British forces were fighting with German tactical doctrine while maintaining British organizational superiority. The breakthrough at Villers-Bocage represented more than tactical success. It represented the evolution of British military capability from methodical competence to aggressive excellence. British forces had learned to fight like German forces while maintaining British advantages in organization, logistics, coordination. German commanders understood the implications immediately. If British forces could fight with German tactical competence while maintaining British organizational efficiency, German military advantages would disappear. The Wehrmacht would face enemies that matched German tactical ability while possessing superior resources. The Guards Armoured Division proved that British forces could achieve that combination: elite units fighting with German tactical doctrine and British organizational superiority. Units that represented the future of British military capability and the end of German tactical dominance. What German officers said when they realized this was what they always said when confronted with evidence of their declining advantages: nothing officially, nothing publicly, nothing that would acknowledge enemy superiority. But privately, they understood that something fundamental had changed in the nature of warfare, that British forces had achieved tactical competence that matched German standards while maintaining British advantages. The Bocage breakthrough was more than a tactical victory. It was proof that British military evolution had reached the point where German tactical superiority was no longer decisive. The Guards Armoured Division had demonstrated that British forces could fight with German aggression while maintaining British efficiency, and that combination would prove unstoppable.